as we record this, Star Trek Prodigy, the second half of season 1 just started up a few days ago on the 5th or the 6th. So
I thought it was next week. I'm a week behind because there's too much stuff to watch.
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
Well, I would have put that on the TV last night if I'd known. Whoops.
No, Boba. You need to get to Boba. What are you talking about?
I caught up on Boba, and then after that, standing up, I said, "Oh, my back," and then I sat back down, and I'd already finished all the Boba.
Oh, okay, gotcha. All right, that's when you jump into Cobra Kai.
I'm halfway through Cobra Kai, and that's hold on, that's Ken's voice. Hello, Ken. Welcome to 2022.
I made it. I just had to. Yeah, can't believe it.
Yeah, I can't.
The years,
sometimes. New Year's, same deal. Sometimes.
Because I mean, since we did close to 2 years in lockdown to a degree now, and it's weird to add essentially anytime you think of a time of reference, like to send it something before COVID, you're like, oh yeah, this. No wait, that's 2 years additional to that. So it's like, oh yeah, I saw that at Comic-Con last year. Nope. 3 years ago. That was easily 3 or 4 years ago now, and it just adds on to that.
The last image I have of some people's kids is from 3 years ago.
Oh yeah.
Crazy. Well, until they send Christmas cards out. Thank you for those. I got to see your new kid too. That was great.
Yeah, I got one from Kit. Did we get one for you? There's Ebony has been stacking them on the fridge, and there's a collage.
Oh yeah, there's one there from us.
Okay.
It printed all weird and magenta. I don't know why.
Oh, we did see that one.
Couldn't fix it.
I remember I'm like, that's interesting choice. Maybe we're going into 2020. Like, and he's like, this is how we're doing it, full of wine. Like,
yeah, I don't know what that was about. It looked perfect on my screen. I sent it to whatever the printing company was, and I came back and was like, well, these 200 things are magenta. Oh well, let's have a good time here today instead of thinking about all of that.
Let's talk about the plethora of exciting shows.
Plethora is the correct term. Yes.
A cornucopia?
No, plethora is the medically designated term for the too much of something.
Jefe, what is a plethora? I would just like to know that you wouldn't use a word that you don't know.
I cannot physically name all the stuff that I'm supposed to be watching. I literally can't do it. I run out of. I've written multiple lists, and they all don't have stuff on them. Like,
yeah, you need to consolidate it into one master.
I have multiple lists of like, oh, these are all the things, and then I write another one and then cross-reference them, and they don't work. It's like there was enough of a break in the sickness that they managed to finish production on everything that was delayed initially. So now we have all of it all at one time, and then it's gonna all get delayed again. So we're gonna get it all again all at one time, and this is how TV is gonna go. But everybody with more time than me is able to watch it faster. So now I feel like I have to watch it.
Well, it's also part of a couple. You also have I have two separate lists. I have the to watch with Ebony list, and then I have to watch on my own list, because there's stuff that there's stuff that I'll wait for her to watch, or there's stuff that I'll watch on my own. So it's like, oh, that's another reason for having multiple lists. Of like, wait, okay, we're gonna watch that at some point. So I guess this goes over here.
Darn living in houses with people that love us.
I don't have Paramount Plus yet, so I haven't jumped into that streaming service cavalcade of things. So, although since it's Viacom, do they have a bunch of the Ninja Turtle stuff?
Yes,
sort of. They have. They do not have the 80s series. They have the 2003 series, and they have the 2019 Rise of series, and then they have a bunch of the movies.
The brand new 2012 stuff?
No, that's on Pluto.
That is some of the best stuff for the Turtles. Dang it!
I know. Netflix actually just bought that series. Voodoo had a sale where you could get the entire 10 seasons of the 2012 series for like $30 total, and so I was like, yeah, I'll just go ahead and
that's doable.
That. So yeah,
I have them in
that series.
Yeah, I have them in a turtle part party wagon shaped DVD case, which is it's horrible because it's a turtle wagon. You lift out the top and there's just a bunch of CDs like in styrofoam.
Oh, that's terrible.
And I'm like, exactly, like it's like this is gonna get destroyed. And I'm like, in my head, I'm like, oh, I love this. It looks great. But like, there's some. I mean, we're gonna go down a lot of different tangents today. Speaking of that, like I also got there was a very short period where Time Life was doing the Ghostbusters, and so I got the entirety of that set in steelbooks, but it's like 4 or 5 steelbooks. But then the slipcase for that is the Firehouse. That one's a really good one.
Yeah, but that includes that's putting DVD cases in something. That's fine.
Yeah, that was a really good set. And then on that note too, because the new Ghostbusters Afterlife is coming out. I don't know if you guys have heard about this. There's a new box set of Ghostbuster films that is retailed. The MSRP is $150. There, you get the original 2 movies, Ghostbusters 1 and 2. You get the Afterlife movie, and each of those have 2 discs, like one standard, one standard, one HD, which is like, I mean, maybe not standard. I'm curious because I know it's 2 discs per movie.
Yeah.
There's digital codes as well, and the digital codes include the 2016 Answer the Call, and then there's 2 whole discs of just a ton of content of like, you know, just these tons of stuff from the original 2 movies, and I'm like, I just want those 2 movies because I already own several copies of all the first 2 movies, digital and hard copy, Blu-ray, DVD. Like it's not even like double dipping; it's like quadruple dipping at this point, and I'm like. It's also $150. It went down to sale price for $100, but still, I'm like, that's $100 for just the 2 discs that I want. Like, that's not viable. But it does come in decent cases and in a ghost trap with lights. So, like, I appreciate the packaging, but I'm like, I don't want to pay that much for just packaging and the 2 extra discs. Like, it's just like, what else are you gonna do? You can't get it anywhere else.
Can I make a suggestion to you?
Find it on the internet.
Yeah. A lot of streaming services you could buy with $150.
Yeah,
and they stream stuff in high definition, really high definition.
I mean, like I said, I already have them, so
yeah.
It's just the additional content, which is why I still like physical media to a degree. I like commentaries, and they're not always on streaming services. I like
not
that type of. Yeah, and that's how they get you. They're like, well, you're not going to get the content anywhere else, at least for the time being. Until the next movie comes out, and they're like, oh, well, here's this version. Did you watch this before? Here's this.
I don't understand why. I mean, now we've gotten to the point that people are savvy enough in streaming usership. I don't know who's savvy in streaming in general. Some places like AMC still have not figured it out. Their apps are terrible and crash every time I try to watch the last season of The Walking Dead. I guess you really don't want people to watch it. Jesus. I mean, I've stuck with it this long, and now you just want to crash every time I want to watch it. Is it really that bad, AMC? Just let me finish it.
Yeah, I remember trying to watch some.
I've been with it 11 years. Just let me finish it. I don't even want to watch it anymore, but I am, and you're making it difficult. My point being, they've understood that people are competent enough to add a tabs to the movies you're watching, and one says extras. But all they put there now is trailers.
For some stuff, like hypothetically speaking, when we start to get into Book of Boba Fett, there's actually some discussion topics that tie into that. Like if you happen to, by the way, we're going to be talking about Book of Boba Fett episodes 1 and 2 this episode. So when we start getting into that discussion, there's going to be a fair amount of spoilers. I don't know. Should we give a spoiler warning up top, or are we going to wait till we get there?
Well, you've now done it, so we're good to move on.
Yeah. All right. But if you happen to go to A New Hope on Disney Plus and look into the extras, you can find deleted scenes and featurettes. And one of those deleted scenes might be of a certain Tashi Station, where Luke goes to see an old friend, Biggs Darklighter, and see what's going on with him, what his story is, and whoever else might be there, some other friends.
Wow.
You know?
I did not know that, and I will go.
You mean like Cammy and Fixer?
Like Cammy and Fixer. They might be there in that deleted scene on Disney Plus, which is a really nice, like, I mean, of course, I think I might have that on one of the versions of the DVDs I have, or Blu-rays. I think I have. No, I Blu-ray.
It's definitely been out on at least one version of, I don't remember which one it is, but it's those deleted scenes have been on previous disc versions of
I'm
that.
slightly shocked that Disney has yet to push out, like, here's the 1970s original. Bang. There it is, unedited.
Unedited and not cleaned up, or like, don't you want remastered? Because that's, yeah.
I don't
think
know that I need remastered. I mean, retransferred maybe, so that it would be 4K transfer. But I'm surprised that Disney has not convened a commission in order to. It just seems like something they would make money off of by doing, and so I'm surprised they haven't done it. You know, they don't.
We just wait.
They don't have the same.
It's taking them time to clean it up and then still put McClunky back in.
We've got 5 years before the 50th anniversary, right?
Oh
yeah.
I
mean, it's only 5 years.
Possible.
5 years away. You give them 5 years, they might just be like, all right, for the 50th anniversary, here's the. Although there was talk. I mean, maybe it's just like hearsay and rumors that people start making up rumors and that gets passed along. But wasn't there something about in like the contracts that they signed with what's his face to be like, we won't release those, we won't do that? I don't know.
Maybe, I don't know. I don't pay enough attention to that because
I have heard that rumor as well, but not from anything anywhere near reliable.
I would imagine Disney's got lawyers. I don't think they care. I don't really need it. I'm not saying it's like you release it or I'm not a fan or anything. I just
You're just surprised.
I just think Disney is like one of those places that has a decent amount of their ear to the ground and would produce something that would make them money like that.
I think a 50th anniversary 4K Blu-ray box set would, and especially because people like, oh, I get to just own the original version. That, you know, maybe just some cleanup on some of the stuff, but just like that transfer, like a Laserdisc transfer, because I think that's the last version you can get with its like very clean without any of the extra stuff in there.
That's the last official version, yeah.
Yeah, and so it's like they could do a transfer from that, or I mean, they
wouldn't transfer from that. They'd have to go back to film because that's unless they used AI upscaling. That's 480p max on that Laserdisc. So
I also don't think that there's the market that we all think that there is for that. Like, obviously, there's a very small vocal minority of fans that really are clamoring for that and have been for years. But I mean, when they released the 2006, I want to say, DVD set that came with a second disc, so it came with the special edition versions, but then it also came with a second disc that was a port of the Laserdisc, not despecialized, but the original versions without the special edition changes as a second disc. That set didn't sell. Most people, I don't think
they're hard
most
to
people
get now. I'll tell you.
Right, yeah. But I mean, at the time, I remember them being on sale everywhere, and it wasn't like they were selling out. And a lot of my friends said, like, "Well, I'm not gonna get this because it's the Laserdisc version," and I just don't, like, not that they didn't care, but that they specifically they thought that they thought a better version was coming out down the road.
I wouldn't say it's not popular because no one cared. I'd say because no one knew at the time you weren't going to get another version of the things. Yeah. So I don't know. I don't want to dwell on it. It was not my point to dwell on it. It's not that important.
I'm just saying Rise of Skywalker came out. They sold X number of copies of Rise of Skywalker. I don't think that they're going to sell X number of copies of just the old unspecialized versions. I don't think that many people care.
I don't think it matters what they sell now. Just put it all on Disney Plus. So.
I mean, they could make that as part of the thing though too. Is that we won't put this on Disney Plus. It's gonna be we're gonna do it as this, and then eventually they say for the limited time release, maybe they even say like it's gonna be just this, and then 5 years down the road, like here it is, and then make a big deal out of it. Then
no one has 4K Blu-ray players, man.
There's also a really good chance that they don't have those versions, because part of the reason at the time that the special editions were coming out, part of the reason why they said that they were doing them was because the original, I don't know if negative is the right word, but the negatives were getting degraded to the point, and this is when they were only 20 years old, were getting degraded to the point that they needed to go in and clean them up. And while they were doing that, he took the opportunity to add in a bunch of digital things and a few live action shots and whatnot. But I feel like there's probably a good chance that now that we're double that amount of time later, that they may not be able to get a real good scan of the original negatives that don't have the stuff that they added in '97.
I don't want my Ewoks blinking, dagnabbit.
I don't care about stuff like that, but I don't care about
that at all.
I do care about
McClunky.
I do care about having transferred an original piece of film to digital so that it does not disappear over time is what I care about, right? Like there's needs to be someone that has an original version of something. That's just
right. What I'm saying is that it seems not unreasonable or not impossible to me that the best version that they have is the Laserdisc version, or
they had to transfer it. I mean, they had to transfer it to make the stuff that they made, right? So if you watch Star Wars on Disney Plus now, right, that stuff is high enough res to have brought it onto Disney Plus in HD. So to have made it in HD, they had to have transferred the original stuff in HD to have made the stuff with special effects, right? So unless they lost the original transfer files or deleted them, they have somewhere an HD enough scan of the film to have made what they made.
Yeah,
it's just on a solid state drive and like
it's not on a solid state drive. It's probably on a tape archive somewhere.
No, but I'm just like saying, sitting in the desk of Lucas, and he's just like,
I don't think so. I think what's more likely is version control lost them the original files is what happened. If they don't have them, I mean that's wild speculation.
I can't think of what the line is right now, but there's a line that Luke says when he's like camped out on Dagobah with R2. I think it might be the one where he says it's a good thing you don't taste very good, but like that audio is lost forever now.
Yeah.
And so like after the 97 version, I forget when it fell out, but at some point that can no longer be in the current versions anymore because they lost like that reel of film or that whatever it is got lost in transit or whatever, and so like that's gone forever. So if you don't have the VHS copies, you won't see that line.
Interesting. See, stuff like that could be restored. That's more interesting to me. Is like, wait, could we go back and find a way to restore stuff that is missing? That would be cool. All right, that's enough of that. Star Wars. We missed my entire segue to He-Man. I was going to start with He-Man, but now we're in Star Wars land. So
speaking of He-Man,
I went to Star Wars land. I went to Batu.
Oh yeah. That was the recent trip.
No, it sucked. I'm not going to talk about it.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
The kids had a great time. Disneyland is an interesting place. Let me tell you. We're in Star Wars time. I'm gonna hold this helmet up, and I'm gonna hold this helmet up, and I'm gonna here. Hold on, I gotta click the record button.
For the listeners at home, why don't you describe whose helmet it is?
Well, I have to describe whose helmet it is. After I make myself full screen. I'm not on the full screen version. Why am I not? There it is. There's Boba's helmet. Boom.
Ooh,
that's the Black Series.
Nice.
Here, if I hold it sideways, you can see more of it. Yeah,
I can see myself in the reflection on the visor.
There you go. There you are.
Look at there.
There he is.
It's like I'm in the shot.
So it's actually a see-through visor. You can kind of see through the back there. Yeah, this is better right here. That's cool. And that's more like the show. This thing really looks a lot like the one in Book of Boba, except the front is much more dinged up. I don't know if you noticed in versus this version.
The weathering on
he's got like an eye scar over on this his right eye now. It kind of goes up the helmet. This is more scraped up again, unlike the re-armored version from Mando. I think what I'm saying is I'm going to get out some silver gray paint and scratch this thing up a little bit more to look like the Book of Boba version, because it's a little flat looking like this. But it's way better than the version I had before, and it fits very strangely. There's much more rake on the front of it. And so when it sits on your head, my nose presses against the thing, kind of like this. It's bigger than the Mando. Oh, I hit my microphone. It's bigger than the Mando helmet, but the Mando helmet is very roomy on the inside, and this one is super cramped.
Interesting.
I don't know.
I would not have suspected that the molds would have been that much different.
The molds are very different. The eye pieces are different. Yeah. This is thicker on this helmet and thinner on this. The wide face gap at the bottom is much thicker. Yeah. This is much thinner and harder to see out of. The actual visor piece. You have to get the helmet on and then like tilt it forward on your head for it to sit right so you can see. Very strange. Watch Tamura wear it in the show, and you can always notice he's leaning forward a little bit. Notice his head is always kind of... It's not like... If you put it on your head like this... There's Ken again. If you put it on your head flat, like you would the other helmet, like it would sit comfortably, it's kind of like tilted back. You look like you're standing straight up. But if you notice in the show, he's kind of always tilted a little forward with his head. So that's why.
I kind of... Yeah, I read that as just like him kind of trying to be a little more imposing. Yeah. Like essentially, he can't furrow his brow, but he can. Oh yeah, like give it that tilt to him. Like that's interesting. That's very cool.
Plus very nice. Press a button and it comes.
That's down. A release, right? There's no automatic release.
No, there is batteries for a light for the targeter, but anyway, that's the new Black Series. Look at the inside; it's pretty nice. I like it. I like it a lot. It looks a lot cooler than the chunky one that I thought looked cool that I had before.
It did. I mean, we were limited on options. It's True. Like when people tell me that they love the Tobey Maguire Spider-Man, I'm like, I don't agree with you, but I understand that you all you had was that as a live action Spider-Man movie. So
no spoilers. I haven't seen it yet.
No, but it's just like I'm just saying I don't like Tobey Maguire.
From
but it's
2001.
You know what I'm talking about.
And so like I prefer so like that type of I'm like it's what you had to work with. There's a kid's Iron Man helmet from like I want to say Iron Man 2 that is like this ping pong, like it's crazy because it's like at the time I could fit my head into it and it had like this cool kind of like you could have the visor pop down and it would close up, but then 7 years down the road, Hasbro Marvel Legends, that's their line for the props. They came out with the one and it's just like, oh yeah, it's just right out of the movie. Like, here it is. Meanwhile, I've got this giant, like almost like ping pong sized shape thing on my head. I'm like, this was cool at the time.
It is amazing. I mean, really, I know that Artifacts or whatever makes helmets that are like $300 that probably are slightly better. But like,
yeah,
I'm shocked that it is as good and as close to was screen accurate. I guess is no longer screen accurate because of the changes for Book of Boba. But other than the silver paint being gray, it looks pretty dang good. Anyway, now I have a problem where I have two helmets, and I know
we discussed this.
I know
it's not a problem.
I know Sabine is coming.
Yes, I was going to mention that. We guess
not Sabine.
Bo-Katan.
Sorry, Bo-Katan's helmet is coming, and also, did you know that GameStop has a Death Watch helmet?
Yeah,
exclusive Death Watch, like weird blue gray thing going on. It looks like Boba's helmet without the dent in it, and it's like a blue underwater-ish color. I don't want to become the helmet guy. I gotta stop. I don't think the bow one would fit me, but then I think, well, but what might fit one of the kids?
It might fit Katie. Like Ebony's like, oh, they made a Bo-Katan one, and so she's like Sabine.
Yeah, it's possible.
Yeah,
it's definitely possible. Anyway,
well, wait. Somebody are we going to talk about it all? Are we going to talk at all about helmets? The plans for the old helmet? Have they?
The old helmet fell apart, my man.
I mean, but is there room to work with it though? Like,
yes, I don't know. I noticed when I picked it up and I put it up to the. So Ken's talking about my discussion with him last time, I think, or a previous time, what to do with the old one. We've decided that I should paint it my personal colors and make it my own helmet. The problem with that is putting it next to this one. It looks super misshapen and strange. It's not round. It's like a cone shape. When you set it next to this one, you're like, wait a minute, that's kind of like somebody squeezed it in a trash compactor. And it's kind of like weirdly, oddly.
It was the style of the time.
It was. Yeah, it was. It's not round. Boba Fett. Okay, now it's time for you, Ken, to do your thing again. Do your Andrew Garfield Spider-Man warning.
Oh no! I mean, I went ahead and I did it. We're moving into Book of Boba Fett then, so strap in because we're going to talk about what happened in the first 2 episodes.
Spoilers
and how. Yeah, spoilers ahead.
Okay.
Pause this, and come back to it after you finish the episodes. Just episodes 1 and 2, and we probably won't be talking about any kind of trailers or additional images we've seen past that. So
I don't do that.
Yep.
I don't do that. It'll ruin it for me because I want to ask you, what the heck do you think this is even about? Now that I've seen 2 episodes of it, I think I spoke to JJ about it a little bit, and both of us said, I don't know what they're making. I don't quite get it. I enjoyed the show. I'm going to say that up front. I don't know what they're making. I knew what The Mandalorian was based on what the first couple episodes showed us, right? This is a space western with multiple problems to solve per episode, etc. Is Boba Fett are they gonna make the Sopranos is this
what we are seeing, what we have seen so far, and what I suspect we will see for the next 5 episodes is how we get from the character transition for Boba Fett, who is insanely popular for a very small amount of screen time, to get him from villain in Return of the Jedi to redeemed hero in Mandalorian and Book of Boba. And so we're gonna see, I have heard that at least after the first episode, that people were not particularly happy with the flashbacks, but I'm enjoying the flashbacks.
What's
and
the point of the show if we're not going to watch flashbacks?
Right, and I needed more. After watching the first episode, I needed more character motivation for why he would change so radically from the Boba Fett who flew out to fight Luke at the Battle of the Sarlacc to the Boba Fett who shows up wanting his armor back in Mandalorian 5 years later. Because just it seemed like after that first episode, it was just like he crawled his way out of the Sarlacc, was then a prisoner for some amount of time, kind of won over the Tuskens, and at some point there had a character change, but that wasn't at all discussed or explained or anything. Yeah, and so that's what that's the part that I'm enjoying the most. The parts on Tatooine, the non-flashback parts with him going to the cantina and talking to the mayor and the huts and whatnot, all of that is fine. I like that, but the stuff with the Tuskens is the stuff that I need so that they can explain to me why he had this change of heart, why falling into the Sarlacc made him decide to change his life.
Or did it? I mean, it seems like maybe it didn't so far. I mean, he respects the Tuskens because they didn't kill him, and he won them over and did stuff for them. But he's still just whacking and killing people and demanding tribute from. It was cool to see that race. What were they called? That we'd only seen before in
the Pikes.
Yeah, the Pikes. I was like, oh wow, cool. There's a whole nother crime family they brought in here that people never probably saw, except in cartoons, which means almost nobody saw, right?
Well,
I think the
Pikes, they were in Solo as well.
Yeah, they're in Solo as well.
There's at least one Pike on
Kessel
Okay.
in Solo.
I did not remember that one. Not a very large portion of that film to stay on Kessel. And
it's
all that I remember from Kessel is a screaming robot screaming about freedom and Wookiees. That's all I remember about Kessel.
It was amongst that last scene when they go and take over the person. That's who
the office that they go into is a Pike.
Yeah, the office. Yeah, that's the office. But keep in mind too, this is a Pike when they have on their
helmet,
helmet breathing apparatus because it's supposed to help a little bit, I guess. Yeah, so that's part of it. So they look very specifically. It's they could almost look like a droid depending on how it's presented in live action.
Sure. I I agree in principle with what you've said here, Kit, which is the interesting thing to me is if it's the book of Boba Fett, it's the book of the entirety of Boba Fett, right? And so like he's getting flashbacks. We're not seeing the flashbacks from when he's younger yet. Although in that second episode, he sure spends a lot of time in that bacta tank, and doesn't flash back to when he's younger. That's weird.
Yeah, he's having it's well. That's the thing too. Is like we're having flashbacks, and then he has kind of lucid. I guess we're going back and forth between the two episodes. There's like those moments where he's like, "Oh, I'm doing my walkabout, and now I'm having the flashbacks of being a child too, and
Camino and all those other things." Yeah.
Yeah. So it's like there are.
Yeah. There's potential for a lot of stuff, but I like that I don't feel like with the flashbacks and the stuff we saw in Mandalorian, I don't quite know. He keeps saying he's the daimyo, right? Like, oh, I've taken over. Like, this is my deal. He tells the Hutts off. He tells the mayor that he's the new crime lord. But it seems like he and no one else believes him.
I mean, enough to give him a helmet full of money, so I'd set him on his way.
Obviously, but also people try to ace him, and at the same time, he's not acting like other than collecting tribute from one person and waiting in his office to collect tribute. He's not really doing much of crime lord stuff. He doesn't have a bunch of people, and it doesn't seem like the show is really hustling towards, oh, he is a crime lord. He's still a mean guy. He's still a bad guy. He's just acing everybody. He's shooting people in the street. He's building a crime family. Like, they have a backstory for why he is the way he is in the Mando stuff. Why he doesn't just walk out of the ship and steal his armor and, kill everybody. Why he saves a Fennec Shand instead of just leaving her in the desert to die. Seems non-Boba-ish, and so like to me it doesn't quite yet explain whether or not we're watching I'm going to make a crime family Boba Fett, or I think I'm going to make a crime family Boba Fett, and actually this is about something else. So that's what I mean. I think total is, what are we watching?
I think a fair amount of the conversation, at least also expectations wise, is we've all had a fair amount of Boba Fett exposure from Legends, and so we have expectations. We have an understanding of like this is what we should be seeing, and that necessarily isn't going to read 100% because they are trying to only give the only story we have off of him is essentially that he was the he was the son of Jango, and like we know that, and that he started as a bounty hunter at a young age and came across as a very kind of entitled little punk. We see the pieces and we are filling gaps with our previous Legends knowledge. And so hypothetically, like as soon as they took him away in chains, another bounty hunter swooped in, pulled him out of the thick of it, and they just, effed off to go do more bounties. Like when him jumping in to stop Luke on the skiff barge is like, okay, well, yeah, he's doing that because that's his employer. Is he doing that out of a sense of loyalty? We don't necessarily know that because there's not a lot of loyalty in his history that we can attribute to. So it's like, what does that shift, which does seem kind of like Dances with Wolves, but with Tuskens, and you are getting him. He is seen like, okay, this is how these people, and he has a certain amount of respect. He also, I guess, has a vague understanding of his Mandalorian connections. Like we don't know anybody. That's one thing that's kind of sucks is we don't. There's a fairly big gap there that he knows of Jango's history, but didn't experience it. So that's kind of an interesting like story there. But yeah, it does. To your comparisons to Sopranos is interesting because I do kind of see like he wants to do like kind of like Red Hood. Like okay, I'm okay with doing crimes as long as it's protecting some people. Like he's like you're in the family, so you're safe. I'm Dominic Toretto now. You all have to listen to me. But I'm gonna take care of you guys too. So these two Gamorrean guards that clearly weren't able to stop me, they're gonna watch my back. But also, I'm gonna constantly have the drop. They're gonna constantly get the drop on me, whether it's a bunch of assassins or when I deliver the assassin back to the mayor, and the mayor's guard kills the assassin. I'm just like, oh, what'd you do that for? Like you're Boba Fett. Like I understand that you're hurt, but also you just laid waste to a bunch of stormtroopers on Tython. Like it's so weirdly inconsistent, but it's like I get that you have to have the character grow, but also you have this weird moments of like we've already seen him. Like it's like kind of like a video game thing where it's like, oh well, you have to start out low so you can build up to those higher levels and take out anything that walks in front of you. It's like, but we just finished that last game, so why is he back to being like, oh, give me to the back to tank? Oh, it's like what are you so injured from that you didn't heal up after the Sarlacc? You've been with the Tuskens for so long. It's been years since all that happened. And we're not getting any definitive idea of time here either, which is kind of it's a little wibbly wobbly, but you just kind of take it as it comes. But like, what injuries did he sustain that now he's got to be in the back of tank continuously? Like, is this the long-term effects of the Sarlacc? Give me a little bit of exposition, like something, because I'm just like, dude, these 6 guys got the drop. You're Boba Fett and Fennec Shand. And she, like, I feel like without him, she probably could have done better. Also, you have a rocket on your back. Shoot the rocket. He should be walking into places and people would be like, is he back? It's Boba Fett? Like,
I don't know if I'd say. I did write down in my notes Old Man Boba instead of Old Man Logan. Was definitely my feeling from the show. Was like, this is just the Old Man Boba. I don't think he's a crime lord. I think that's the thing. And I think you actually might be stumbling into what the story might be about there, Ken, which is no one knows who Boba Fett is. Like, we know who Boba Fett is, but no one actually knows who Boba Fett is really anymore. And that might be a good thing overall in the universe to say, like, yeah, I mean, like, this character, but it doesn't mean everybody knows this character. He terrorized Han Solo for a bunch of time.
If he's on a different planet, maybe I'd get that a little more, but it is Tatooine.
Everything happens on Tatooine. Everything is always on Tatooine, but it doesn't mean that Boba spent all his time on Tatooine until he was a Tusken Raider. We saw him at
the concert, that Star Wars, the music concert on Visions.
That's true.
He was there. Like,
I think you nailed it. You said everyone thought he was cool, but he had no screen time. Boba is cool because he says like 8 lines ever.
It's different if you have him be a small amount of screen time side character who can just stand in the corner in a cool suit of armor and say very little and sound tough, as opposed to an entire show about them, where they're the main character. So that's probably not gonna work if he only has 4 lines an episode for me. I think that part of the transition to, I don't know, anti-hero as opposed to straight up villain is going to be that we're going to learn a lot more about him. And besides just the period of time that he spent with the Tuskens, I think that we'll probably get a lot more Camino information. We'll probably get some more information about that period of time in the dark times in between the last time we see him in Clone Wars and the next time we see him in, I don't know, A New Hope. We'll probably get some information in there as well. So I think that as long as they do it well, that will he still be the same mysterious character? No, probably not. But if they keep telling good quality stories, I think that he will still be a cool character.
I think it's more of a flashback show than anything going forward, right? I mean, the future for Boba Fett might not be as interesting as the past, is maybe what you're saying.
That's absolutely what I'm saying. That is what I was trying to say initially, but distilled down to like one sentence. Very accurate, yes.
I think you're on the head there, Ken, that the back to tank is to heal the Sarlacc wounds, because all his scarring on his chest and stuff is gone in the future version of him.
That's true.
So I think it's implied but not explained. Robert Rodriguez does do that as a director. He's just, this is the thing. The thing is happening. Now we're moving on to the next thing. And that seems to be kind of how it is, right? Like, the mayor gives you the explanation. That's it. Like, the character's dead now. We're done. We're moving on. Oh, look, there's the Hutts that tried to kill you.
Hypothetically, but I mean, do we believe that they weren't sent by the mayor? But also, I'm still bothered by the fact that everyone's just like, ha! We surprised you, didn't we, Boba? Like, you can get it together. Sorry, bleep that. All right, apologies.
I thought it was very interesting that at the very beginning of episode 1, when he is collecting his tribute from the different people on Tatooine, that the mayor sends his chief
Major
of staff, to basically go and threaten Boba. And like, it's true. At that point, it's Boba Fett and Fennec, and shortly thereafter the Gamorreans. So it's not like he has a crime network. Yeah. At the same time, like, that's a pretty. I found that to be a surprising move.
That's what I think the show is about. Is kind of like maybe Boba's gonna realize like he's been out of the game. He's not. He's sitting in Jabba's chair. But if the building fell down, no one would care, right? Like there's nothing left in it. There's no one left in it. He's got one droid, 2 bad Gamorrean guards, no Rancor. There's nothing there. And so like when the I don't remember her name, but the woman from the club who employs a Rex droid, by the way, as a card dealer.
That was awesome. I was so happy when I saw that.
I was literally I paused it. I was like, Kenny, it's Rex! It's Rex. And then she goes, yeah, I saw. I was like, okay, why are you not excited? I'm excited. We just talked about how I wish they had used all those droids they ripped out of the ride for something. And I'm sitting here 1 week later watching it on the screen and you're not excited. Anyway, she gives him a lot of attitude where she's like, yeah, okay, sure, you're in charge. Whatever. I'll just pay you. You know, she didn't seem to me to come off like, oh, the new crime lord. And everyone's always making fun of him. Oh, I didn't see your litter show up, so you must not actually, like, oh, we'll pay you off to go away. But I'm not serious. Right? Like the Boba Fett in people's minds when he walked in to see the mayor and the guy was doing the thing where he's like, I don't see you on the schedule. Are you sure? Like, you're a crime guy? I don't believe you're like the Boba Fett of people's minds. The mysterious Boba Fett would probably have like grabbed that guy with his rope thing and thrown him across the room or what. I don't know. Like, everybody's mind of how cool Boba Fett is. You wouldn't have taken it. This Boba's not a big deal, maybe.
I think that there's the line that the mayor says to him that, by the way, voiced by Robert Rodriguez.
Yeah, I had to look that up because he sounded at moments like Pedro Pascal, and at other moments he sounded like D. Bradley Baker doing a Pedro Pascal.
Okay.
It was like, who's doing this voice? This is strange. And it was Robert Rodriguez. And as soon as somebody said it, when we looked it up, I was like, oh, yeah, that's totally him. That's funny.
Yeah. And so part of that, he says to him, it takes more than this to run a family. And I think that's part of the theming for this, maybe at least the first couple episodes, is that Boba on his, like, young Boba, I mean, this is old, like you said, it's old man Boba. This is like, mature Boba. He's gone through some shit. After the start, like, he learns, like, oh, he's got to be part of a community, which is the Tuskens. Like, he learns their heritage. He sees, like, oh, they've lived here longer than anyone else, and that they've learned to survive on the Dune Seas, even though at one point this was a lush planet, and just over time stuff has happened so that it becomes this desert planet. But that statement's supposed to be like, oh, it takes more than that to run a family. But then you see that juxtapositioned with, then you go to you have your flashback and he's there amongst the tribe, living with them, learning to coincide with them.
Right.
And so he's learned. Yeah. And so it's going to be like he's going to start to build up his family is my guess. Oh. And there's definitely a little bit of just like you said, like, who else is in the Jabba's palace. Like, it's just those, like, it's the 4 of them and the droid, or like, it's just them. And I'm like, yeah, like, when they leave, how come, like, other people just roll in, like, oh, we're just gonna squat here? Like, they're so, like, did they lock the place before they left? Like, it bothers my brain a little bit.
Like, I mean, he walks into the building there, and what does the guy say? He says, Boba Fett, I don't know who you are. And Boba Fett says, you know damn well who. And it's like, no, I don't think anybody does. And so Yeah, it takes more than that to run a family. I think if I don't know, Kit, what you decide which one of us is right. Ken says he's going to build up a family like the Tusken Raiders. I disagree. I actually think what their point is that maybe he's forgetting the lessons from the Tuskens currently, and then when he gets in the back of the tank after that fight, right? And we get the long scene with the Tuskens. He's remembering the lessons and how he's misbehaving, I guess is the right word, or something like that. He's trying to go back to being Boba Fett. He's trying to become Jabba the Hutt because he thinks he has to. I think maybe not. I think the show is not going to be about that. I don't see.
I'm probably wrong. I can definitely see it going either way, but I think that he is going to build up a crime network
family.
And have
So I'll
maybe
add
not
to
maybe not this season, but like down the road, I think that'll be part of the story of the present as opposed to the flashback past.
So it's a show about a bad guy then.
I mean, a bunch of misfits. Like I wanted to clarify too. Not that even he'll continue to be the daimyo of, or I guess of Jabba's palace or his region of Mos Espa, whatever. Yeah. Mos Espa. But like he'll essentially, I think at some point we get to where it's like maybe someone else comes in and he's like, okay, you know what, you're in charge of this. Now it's just going to be me and my crew. Essentially, kind of going back to his roots when he was a kid doing stuff with like a gang. And like they, the maybe not full on A-team style, but still like just going about doing things, the things that they want to do.
Gamorreans don't sing to me with the idea of committing capers.
No, they stay behind at the base with the new boss. Yeah, like they're like, it's like, thank you for your service. You stay here with them, and that's when Kira takes over that location.
Oh, Kira! Man,
as part of the Black Sun Syndicate.
Oh, my heart would be full if a Kira reference showed up. The Black Sun.
We don't know what happened to her after Solo. I mean, that Solo said a long time before this, but
yeah,
it's not. No, I'm not saying that. We don't know what happened to her. She could easily show up and
ain't no Solo 2 in this world. We might as well get Kira in something else.
Well, we're getting Lando. That's almost Solo 2.
Do you think they'll put anybody from Solo other than Lando in it? I don't know.
It would not surprise me if they put Kira in the Lando, or Han in the Lando show,
or a black chrysanthemum.
Santi, yes,
chrysanthemum. I don't know. It's such a
you're getting confused, which means you're confusing me.
Sorry, black chrysanthemum is the large Wookiee that shows up with the twins. First seen in Star Wars Darth Vader, the comic book series.
What?
And Dr. Aphra as well.
Yeah.
I don't know what that's about.
The Wookiee that showed up with the twins?
Yeah, see, this is why we have this show, so you can tell me all these things, because I don't know what the heck you're talking about.
So Black Chrysanthemum is a Wookiee bounty hunter that was a gladiator for a while and was hired by Dr. Aphra and Darth Vader during different events in the comic book series, and has had a bit of a history with Boba Fett as well. So there's certainly like he has a bit of a history in the series. So yeah, to see him show up is just like, yes, they're bringing more stuff in from the maybe, I don't know, extended universe. It's not expanded, it's extended, and they're bringing that in. It's like getting I was gonna say, it's like I want to eventually get that episode in the Bad Batch of Boba getting his helmet dented, because I want Cad Bane to give him that dent while they're trying to hunt down Omega or something. I need that.
Omega. Chrysanthemum. Krrsantan. Interesting.
Yeah. And are you worried about comic book spoilers? And for any listeners at home, I'm gonna give some comic book spoilers. But the scar over Black Chrysanthemum's eye was given into him by Obi-Wan Kenobi while he was protecting the Lars family on Tatooine.
Oh.
Yeah.
So we get to see that in Obi-Wan Kenobi's show at some point.
Hypothetically, yeah. That big old Wookiee could throw down with an Obi-Wan Kenobi.
That big old Wookiee's gonna walk around one episode of everybody's show.
I'm down for it. They did that in with the Legacy story. What was that one? Where that one armband went through like 18.
Oh, Vector.
18 Vector. Thank you. 18th century is like, okay, we're gonna cover the Dawn of the Jedi. We're gonna cover Clone Wars all the way through to Legacy.
Yeah. Eventually, this will end up on a Cade Skywalker and drive him insane.
There you go.
Cade Skywalker. Wow. That's a legend forever now. No
yeah,
more?
that's way done.
I guess
that's
technically not, because Rey Skywalker could have a
true
kid. This is me shaking my hands and throwing them in the air. I liked Boba. I loved the Rancor wasn't there. I was like, this would make no sense if there was a Rancor. I have no idea what that six-limbed monster was. But like seeing all sorts of tiny references like that made it feel like The Mandalorian again.
I kind of hope that they would have a toddler Rancor.
I was a little
from Bad Batch. Yeah, from Bad Batch. He would have been like a little bit bigger, but he's just like, it was like Moochie or something like that,
Moochie.
Right? Yeah.
It was not that I was disappointed with how it went, because I liked how it went as well, but there was a little part of me that was like, oh man, I hope a little Rancor comes out.
Just chews on his ankles.
Yeah.
I was a little worried for you,
very
Kit.
Earth rat.
I was a little worried for you, Kit. I know there was something in here that probably made you upset. Is that the second episode, there were Trandoshans everywhere.
There were?
Yeah, he walks through town and there's like 4 or 5 shots of different Trandoshans.
Oh, the only one that I noticed, I guess I don't pay attention to the crowd as closely as I should. The only one that I noticed was the one who brought him a Wookiee pelt at the beginning. But that's just keeping with Lucasfilm trying to make their propaganda to make me dislike Trandoshans.
Well, so what was interesting to me about that, and I wanted to ask you guys about, so we've renamed Slave One to nothing, which is fine. Who cares?
I mean, renamed in the hypothetical that those never said on screen. So
look, so Lego did put out sets, right? And the sets are official, and so they've named it. What do you mean? Why are you giving me a face that it's not official?
I was saying that sets that are official. The books were official when they were printed, but now that we've moved past
but they've done a UCS, not a UCS. No, they did do a UCS Slave One since Disney has owned the property.
Right, but even then, it's not necessarily
technically
just
canon just because they put it on a Lego. So I don't know that it was canon or not canon. I honestly don't care. I really want to make it clear that I don't care what the name of Boba Fett's ship is. You could change it weekly. I don't mind.
It's like the weekly special.
Yeah. But
the ship du jour.
Interesting that they would take away, quote unquote, the Slave One name to get rid of the idea of slaving in Star Wars, and then bring back Trandoshans, notoriously only known for being Wookiee slave traders.
I think that that's more of a framing thing of that, since it's if we want to present to you Boba Fett as a good character, then he himself doesn't have that moniker for his ship. Whereas you could like the Trandoshans can do that because they're bad guys, and we're saying they are bad guys and they do that. Just like essentially calling, when they said we're no longer to call her Slave Leia. It's like, okay, you're saying that because she's a good character and you don't want to put that out there. So now they call her Hutt Slayer Leia, which then you could be like, well, so you're okay with slaying? Yes, they are, because the idea is that a Hutt is a bad guy, so you're killing the Hutt. I think it's just a matter of framing. Like if it had been Emperor Palpatine's Slave One, I'm sure they'd be like, well, he's Palpatine and he'd do that. He's a bad guy.
Yeah,
I think we're gonna get the renaming of the ship this season, and the reason why the Lego name change.
They didn't Boba
change
Fett's
the name. Yeah, they just removed the name, and I think that the reason why they did that is because it's going to be sitting on the shelves during the name change, and they're going to have during the show Boba Fett's like, you know what? I don't really want to call my ship Slave One anymore. I'm going to call it whatever.
I
And
would
Razor Crest.
I would stand up and shoot my hands in the air in joy if they do that during the show. Yeah, like finger guns straight up. Pew, 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 pew.
I would suspect that in the very near future, since Boba Fett is the main character of a Disney Plus show, that his ship will be renamed in the next 5 episodes.
I would just the scene you're describing, the scene you've described where Boba is like, it's not Slave One. You know, like somebody says, "Oh, hey, you know, I've been taking care of Slave One while you've been in Mos Espa," and then he goes back to Mos Eisley or something, right? He's like, "Oh no, it's not Slave One anymore. It's Daimo 15 or whatever, Daimyo 15." I don't know.
Django's Dream. Like I'm gonna name it Django's Dream, man. Yeah. So
The Black Melon.
The Black Melon. Man, it's the Melu run.
I was a little queasy when he goes, "We'll give you black melons. You can drink their milk." And I was like, "Milk? Oh God."
Yeah.
What is a? I don't want to know.
Like coconut milk.
I know it's like coconut milk, but what does a black melon come from?
The sand. That's what those.
Yeah,
black,
sand
those,
can't grow.
Did you miss the
something?
part where they were combing the desert?
Comb the desert.
They combed the desert and they found one of those frog things. They weren't combing it for black melons.
I'm guessing that would break the black melon. That's why they use their hands. That was a very kind of you're right. Because where does it go to? Like,
what does a black melon come from? They just find them in the dirt. To me, that means it is some sort of fecal matter.
I don't think it's that. I think it's some kind of a plant, like a coconut or a cactus or something like that.
What's growing it? It's just in the ground. I don't.
Well, there's probably like a root or something that goes, like a tap root that goes down really, really far, and that's seed.
Then you could grow these and farm them instead of wandering the desert sifting with slave hands. Speaking of which, Tusken Raiders have slaves.
It could be an egg, but I think it's a plant, not an animal thing. But it's definitely not feces. I mean, there's no.
Well, I just said I couldn't come up with an explanation that made any sense.
Who in the desert? What animal in the desert would leave their a hard case? Would leave feces with a hard case and a whole bunch of super hard to get liquid in the middle of it? Like that wouldn't make any sense.
And let's be clear, the Tuskens have prisoners with jobs. Okay,
prisoners with jobs. Yeah, they can earn their freedom if they save little children from 6-armed monsters by sacrificing Rhodians to them.
It's funny.
I really liked that. I thought that was cool.
Yeah, it was cool.
I don't know if they did stop motion, but it reminded me of that like Clash of the Titans stop motion type special effects. So I thought that
I liked it. I'm making fun of it because I liked it. I liked all of it. I think going forward, I don't believe Boba's a good guy, and I think that's your point, Kit. Is that we need lots and lots of stuff to even make him an anti-hero versus me thinking, why is he not just killing everyone? Or why is he, this is not even Boba from the cartoon. Like if you take away all the Legends stuff, if you really try to just think about what they've shown you about him, it doesn't make sense that he's trying to be a crime lord for some reason instead of just killing people and walking away and taking money. I don't know. Yeah, it's weird.
He's not really a crime lord at this point. He's basically just going around collecting
Jabba's tribute.
Yeah. Which I think will probably be a key distinction. I don't know. I could be wrong, but I would doubt with him being the main character that we will see him doing, like if somebody doesn't pay him, burning their bar down or getting into fights with other people who are trying to control Mos Espa, sure, but I don't think that we'll see him, or I don't think we'll see him burying somebody in concrete and dumping them into the river or something like that.
That's what Fennec's for.
But see, that's what I can't tell is like, are we going to an actual crime family thing where he does have to do stuff like that? I mean, I just don't see him being the Punisher, where he's like, oh, now I'm going to take on the Hutts and do things to help people against crime. It just doesn't make any sense.
That's why I think it's going to be kind of like a little more like a Red Hood, where he's like, oh, there's going to be like the gang that's tearing up in the flashbacks, the gang that's tearing up certain homes and stuff.
Oh, he needed their swoop bikes. He didn't care about those people.
Right, but that's where I think it grows, because he's like, okay, well, these people are also part of his. It's like protection money, but like part of that protection money is you do have to protect them from other criminals. And as the frame would go, he can kill a criminal. That's allowed because he's a good guy. So that's where some of the crime boss side of it kind of comes into play. It's like, I'm a goodish bad guy. Quotations. I don't. Yeah, I don't see him being Darth Maul, where he's like, no, I'm in charge and we're doing bad shit every day. Let's go do bad shit. He's like, let's just not let shit blow up. Like, can we do that?
I think he really is more like a. I think that the term daimyo was very much thought out, and he's more going to be like a feudal lord as opposed to that's what I think that they're going to do. He'll have to go in and clean up and take out some other crime lords, and there's some gray area where the two overlap, but I think that he's going to be the feudal lord as opposed to who gets tribute from people, yes, but he protects them as opposed to like the just rampant criminal organization of, say, a Hutt or whatnot.
And I do think that, given the show to run X amount of time, at some point, if going into the third season, I can be like, I can see them saying, okay, we've had enough on Tatooine. Let's go ahead and let's change it. And there's going to be episodes where he's like, oh yeah, I set this up, but now Bo-Katan asked for my help, so let's me and Fennec fly off to go do that. And there's going to be some episodes that take them.
That's why I don't see him building a crime family, right? People want to see Boba get in his ship and go do things.
Well, he's got to be able to delegate.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Stay here, Gamorrean guards, and you protect the castle.
It's actually harder to do the Boba Fett theme out loud than it is to do the Mandalorian theme out loud. If you like, because it's a very specific pitch, and yelling "Hya" at people kind of has the wrong connotations.
Ken is currently following Tamura Morrison around New Zealand, watching to see if he's growing a beard for a possible Rex.
Oh my
link.
God, so much.
Every day he's following him around like the paparazzi with his camera.
Ken keeps jumping out of the bushes and yelling, "Yeah!" Oh boy, Boba Fett.
It wouldn't be a bad idea.
Fett. It wouldn't.
I would
be
suddenly
a bad
see his hot guy and he'd be like,
there's a lot of mocked up Rex posters for Ahsoka that are pretty good, I have to say.
Yeah, I'm loving it.
I can't get too close to that one. We'll get sued. Book of Boba Fett. We did episodes 1 and 2 last time, and our big 2 question was who is Boba Fett and what is Boba Fett? A, the person, and B, the show. And so I think Kit
and let's not forget, will he put together a crew?
Yeah.
That was our what is the show question. Yeah.
That was them just going like, Andy, just we got you, Andy.
They set you up, Andy.
They really laid it all out there, dude. It was Boba Fett and the Technicolor Dream Crew.
Oh man,
the mods,
the mods with the Vespas.
Oh my goodness.
Okay, I'm jumping ahead for a second. Was that the slowest speed chase you've ever seen filmed on television?
Oh, absolutely, with the least amount of stakes, like the lowest stakes, lowest speed.
It was probably Stargate episode where they like chase people around and like there's no point in chasing them, it felt like that moment in the chase was like, why are we even, he has a jetpack, like this is a frivolous chase. And it felt
which they accent at the end when he just lands.
Yeah, I know, but it also felt frivolous the entire time it was happening. It was like, okay, this guy's clearly being ridiculous and this chase is ridiculous to show up. But
clearly it was supposed to be for comedy.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, like watching Force floating Vespas chase I don't know. I can't think of like a good like 70s really slow car. But
it was like a Grand Marquis.
It's like 8 mile an hour. Yeah, it's like an 8 mile an hour chase through.
I'm pretty sure it was a Grand Marquis. Yeah.
That'd work.
That would work. Hey. Let's talk about them in order for a second, because we're already talking about the cyborg water stealers, and so we'll just start with episode 3. The Streets of Mos Espa. The shortest episode of premium television of all time. 32 minutes, I think, before credits.
That's what's kind of interesting.
Yeah.
They feel like they're two episode blocks. Like they balance better when you get like one and then two. Like one felt really short and then 3 felt really short. But then once you pair in the second half, you're like, oh, okay, this feels better. Like I feel like I got my fill.
Yeah. Interesting. We'll jump to that next. It definitely feels like maybe these should be 1.5-hour episodes instead, and but the season would then be what? I mean, they only ordered
4 episodes long.
Yeah, it'd be only 4 episodes long. Streets of Mos Espa was definitely. Everyone's wondering what this show is. Let's show them. The episode, which is Boba Fett's gonna make a gang, guys. So
right after he heard you ask if he was really gonna put together a gang, he's like, "Let's go! I got to put together a gang."
Yeah, Andy's getting
I gotta
impatient.
put a crew together.
We gotta take down the Nikto gang.
We should probably mention that we're recording this after the 4th episode came out, but
correct.
Before the 5th episode came out.
Before the 5th episode. We have a backlog of these that I'm going to work my way through over the coming week. So people are going to get a lot of carbon scoring real quick. The December holiday was kind of rough. So I'll put a time at the beginning of each episode. I'll be like, okay, this was recorded X date, just so people know. But these will come out quick because
right.
Yeah.
Because by the time they see it, they'll be like, Andy will be like, well, I don't know what he can do. Is he going to form a gang? I don't know about that.
Exactly. Yeah.
They're like, this is episode 7. It's over.
Yeah. No, I'm trying. I was trying to. This is a little inside baseball. I had transferred to that new PC. It's taking me a lot longer to updo the graphics and stuff like that. So I put that on pause and I'm just editing the episodes and getting them back out. And we'll do updated graphics later. Mos Espa. So other than the Technicolor Dream Gang, we also get a return of Chrysanthemum in this one, which is basically Robert Rodriguez being like, I like Wookiees, and I want one in my show. I've never, however, seen a Wookiee look more like a man in a fursuit than when Chrysanthemum runs away from Jabba's palace. Hey, what's the deal? Are we gonna call it Jabba's palace forever? It can't be Boba's palace. That doesn't sound right, because that's like some sort of tea shop. Welcome to the Boba palace.
It's too soon to change it to something else. Awesome. Now I actually
love it now.
I'm fine with calling it Jabba's palace. Yeah. Then you know what you're talking about. So
yeah. That's true.
I mean, I'm sure there'll be like, there's probably going to be some name we'll get down the line where they'll be like, oh yeah, this is the most Hutta palace. Like there'll be some name for it. I mean, we touched on it last time, but also where he's like, I've got to get back my fire spray. It's like that's what he just called it. He just boom, which is like, given he's just naming the ship style, but it's also like,
he called it a fire spray gunship.
Yeah.
Which currently, as of 8:58 a.m. on 1/23/2022, the editors of Wikipedia have yet to catch that the entry for Chapter 4, The Gathering Storm, has not 1 but 2 references to Slave 1 in it, which is no longer the name of the ship. And if you click the link to Slave 1, it says Fire Spray 31 on it. So that's interesting. Okay, so that episode, there's some other stuff that probably stuck out to you, right, Kit? I don't know, maybe a few appearances of some characters that were missing, or let's say one main character that was missing from Jabba's palace.
Are you referencing the Rancor Keeper?
Yes. And the Rancor itself.
I was so happy when we got the Rancor and Danny Trejo as the Rancor Keeper. I'm glad that we got the part about the speeder bike chase out of the way. If I had one complaint about this show, it would be that chase was kind of underwhelming. But otherwise, this show, I feel like I kind of wonder if a lizard climbed up my brain and I'm just imagining this because it's like Jon Favreau and Robert Rodriguez have tapped into my brain and are just like picking out stuff like what would Kit like to see? Max Rebo, we'll toss a little bit of that in there. Some Tuscan background culture, we'll grab some of that. Boba Fett, Boba Fett's redemption story, sure. But let's have him ride a Rancor and have that Rancor be trained by Danny Trejo because that's what Kit would like.
I love it.
Yeah, it really. Every episode, when we get to episode 4, I'll talk about the very specific series of events while I was watching episode 4. Santo. I'm just gonna call him Santo now. I went back and listened to it 3 or 4 times, and I actually turned on subtitles to make sure I wasn't just imagining it. But when he's in the bar, I forget what her character is, but Jennifer Beals' character calls him Santo. Black Chrysanthemum, she calls him Santo. And there's a very, very, very famous, like Hulk Hogan of Lucha Libre, named El Santo. And so I was like, is she calling him Santo? So I'm just going to call him Santo from now on because I like that. So, but
I imagine
there's a very specific part with him.
I mean, Robert Rodriguez is into Lucha Libre stuff. I know, I've seen in interviews that so that's definitely on purpose, right?
He ran a. I'm not sure how individually involved he is. I know that his TV network El Rey ran a wrestling promotion named Lucha Underground for 2-3 years.
Oh, okay, cool.
Gotcha.
So
that's a definite reference that I would never have got. So thank you. That's cool. Other than seeing characters showing up, it really, episode 3 is, hey, we're gonna have a fight with the Pikes, yo, and setting up some sort of interior intrigue, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I mean, with the whole, I'm gonna get my other families from Mos Espa together and then convince them to not take sides. I mean, that was really, that was Shays, the mayor, I don't know, Shays, setting him up.
The Ithorian.
Yeah. Chrysanthemum trying to kill him in his back to tank, and the twins leaving and the Pikes showing up is kind of it for episode 3.
Well, so I have a question for you guys about the Pikes and the Pikes being set up as the big bad guys. So in the episodes, we see the hover train go by and they shoot back and forth and then they attack the hover train, and the hover train is run by the Pikes. He then goes to meet with, after he attacks the biker gang or the Kinten Striders, after he attacks them, he then goes and meets with the Pikes in Mos Espa. Boba Fett goes and meets with the Pikes in Mos Espa. They say, the whole thing about we're not going to pay 2 parties. While he is gone, the Tuscans are ambushed and massacred, and he comes back. All he has to go on is that graffiti tag that he's seen the Kinten Striders put up. Do you think? And then later on, in the 4th episode, when he's talking to Fennec says, "There's no way that those bikers did that." Do you guys think that it was the Pikes and they were just trying to set up the Kinten Striders, and that we're going to find out that the Pikes actually massacred the Tuscans down the road, or do you think that it really is the Kinten Striders?
Oh, I would definitely go with your way. That's way better than
I think it's the Pikes, gang. But
I mean,
I'm curious.
It kind of doesn't matter, right? Because he obliterated the biker speeder bike guys, so it would be better if it was the Pikes at this point.
Well, yeah, it'll be a lot. It'll matter a lot once he gets to the Pikes if he finds out that it is them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It'll add even more stakes.
But even if it was just the Kinten Striders, it was on behalf of the Pikes. Like they did it because the Pikes told, like they were like, they hit us, like you're supposed to respect us, and it was on their behalf. I do agree with the idea. Like I'm curious what she says. Like I find that hard to believe. I'm curious about that. Like but they did seem to have more numbers when in episode 4 when they came back for Retribution. They did seem to have more numbers than we originally saw when they hit that small but moisture farmer.
They were trying
so it's like hard to.
They were always sort of like not fighting. They were just beating. They were bullying. They'd go pick on people that
Right. Yeah. And so I'm just curious if they had, if they ended up recruiting more or having more people, and then they hit the Tuskens, and that's their numbers, and then overwhelming firepower could have done it. But yeah, I'm curious because even Fennec is like, that doesn't seem like something's off there.
Also, funny note. So I said that I had the subtitles on, so I watched these with subtitles. So when the Jawas talk, the subtitle says their language is Jawa'ese.
I think we saw that a bit in Mando, but I'm not sure now.
I had never heard that before, so
yeah,
I didn't know how to refer to the Jawa language.
Anything on episode 3 before we jump out and realize that our gang is consisted of 2 Gamorreans, Fennec Shand, and a bunch of teenagers.
So 2 things.
Oh yeah.
I didn't get the thing about like the double meaning of the mods until episode 4 when he was making the modifications to Fennec.
Mm-hmm.
And then I was like, so obviously they call themselves the mods because they get cybernetic modifications. But then there's also the mods like from is it the 60s or at least the 70s,
squad?
like the proto punk movement in Britain. I didn't that totally obviously they all have cybernetic I forget what her name is, but the leader, she's got the arm, and a bunch of them have like eyes and whatnot, but I didn't catch the mod thing until after Fennec's stomach got replaced in episode 4, but I thought that was kind of cool.
The only thing I could think of was the mod squad. When they kept saying mods, I was like, what? Why do we keep saying mods?
But like, obviously that was what they were going for with them being, out of work and the way that they dress and whatnot. Obviously that's like not a very subtle, this is what we're going for.
It's subtle enough that we didn't catch it until they said, like, just spelled it out for us. And then we're like smacking our heads like, duh.
But I thought that was pretty cool. I guess 3 things. I really liked that the one thing that I think that we should talk about in the chase that we haven't already talked about is them driving through the painting, the Macquarie painting, or like very close to a Macquarie painting, except that they took out
Luke.
They took out Luke. It may not have been the actual. It may have been somebody else's rendition of that painting with Luke removed. It may be the actual.
Which one?
Painting. So when they're driving through the streets, there's 2 guys carrying a picture of Jabba's palace with a bunch of Jabba and a bunch of his menagerie in there. There's an actual Macquarie painting of that with Luke in it that was concept art for Return of the Jedi. The one that they end up driving through the painting. The painting that they drive through has Luke removed, but I thought it was funny that they were like basically hauling a Macquarie painting across the street.
That's funny.
In there. And then
it was probably Doug Chiang that redid it then.
They might have just removed out, used the actual Macquarie painting and removed out Luke. I didn't look at it closely enough, but and also like just hearing Danny Trejo say that Rancor are emotionally complex creatures was pretty cool. Although my other conspiracy theory is, do you guys understand why he trusts Danny Trejo at all? Like, I don't understand why he lets him in, because like, so the Hutts show up like an hour after Black Chrysanthemum gets captured trying to murder Boba in his own house.
And then they're like, but we're leaving.
Like, sorry, here, we're going to give you this Rancor and this Rancor keeper with it. Like, he doesn't hire Danny Trejo. I don't know if he's choosing to, or if he's like some kind of like a slave that they're making stay with the Rancor or whatever. But like, I don't understand why Boba Fett in universe, why Boba Fett would trust this guy at all. Because that's like totally fair. The Hutts are like, here, we're going to give you this incredibly dangerous creature and this guy that we have brought that's going to train him for you. And we're just going to leave them. And he just like lets them into his house. And
meanwhile, he keeps saying, however,
any concerns whatsoever that Danny Trejo may not be on the up and up. And like the whole time, like I don't want him to be. I love Danny Trejo. I want more screen time for Danny Trejo. I want him to be a cool dude and not betray him, but like at the same time, if that was me, I'd be like, yeah, you can just go. I'll find somebody else to train my Rancor.
I would imagine that maybe just because he's like, well, I have no other idea how to handle a Rancor. That's probably the only in-universe reason to be like, okay, fine, like guys watch him, but like, because otherwise they have no other way to be like, yeah, I know how to handle a Rancor. This is like, that's the only thing I can think of. Because you're right. Like I thought the same thing. I'm like, also I thought, oh, it's Danny Trejo. What's taking him so long to show up? This is a Robert Rodriguez joint. Why wasn't he in episode 1? But it's fine. It's good. I love Danny Trejo. But it was really cool to see him. But I was kind of saying to him like, we just believe it, because I'm also curious about how this place still works, because they haven't. Is it the droids that are still kind of manning most things except for you and the 2 Gamorrean guards? And I guess now we have the mods in there too, which they have a fair amount of role as things go. But also you're sleeping, and Black Chrysanthemum gets all the way to your room, your private room, silently. He's not a stealth character. Like he's like
yeah.
But I mean,
how do we after listening to Boba Fett say how everybody around the bounty hunter trade is an idiot and that's why he wants to start a new family, then reconcile the fact that Boba is making all these decisions that we'd be like, well, that seems not smart. Like, I want to ride this Rancor. Well, that doesn't seem smart.
Oh, that seems fantastic. What are you talking about? That is my dream. I'm hoping for that in the finale, like him riding that Rancor in and just, oh man, that would be so great. But okay. I don't know. I kind of wish. I wish that we got something, and maybe it's coming, but probably not at this point. I wish that we got something more to explain Boba's character shift between how he was portrayed before he fell into the Sarlacc and how he basically, because basically we get no explanation as to why, when the Tuskens save and capture him at the beginning of episode 1, why he's had this character shift, because he's acting very differently in this show than he was in Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi. And obviously something happened, but I would have liked a little bit of exposition or story about why that happened. I wish we could get that. We're probably not going to. Maybe there's a small chance. It sounds
like in episode 4 they're starting to let you in the behind the curtain a little bit, where what's her name? Fennec says when they're outside Jabba's palace, like, the Tuskens have made you soft, and he's just like, nah, I'm just done with getting blown up and thrown in Sarlacc pits. Like, I don't have any interest in doing this anymore. And like,
for someone else, I'm tired of being the rank and file.
So
yeah, but I still would have liked.
I don't think it's enough. I want to be clear. I don't think it's enough. I think I need to be shown, not told. Right? Like, that's just a conversation, and it doesn't show me.
I would like one sentence or 2 sentences between him and Fennec, where Fennec says, "Are you actually going to trust this guy?" And him being like, "No, I don't trust this guy at all. Like, we're going to keep an eye on him." That would have been enough. You know, that 10-second back and forth would have been enough for me. But like, now I'm just like, why is he like presumably Danny Trejo is just sleeping in a bedroom close to the Rancor pit with access to the kitchen and I
would say
with a reasonable run of the house. And like, if Black Chrysanthemum could get up into his bedroom, I don't see why Danny Trejo couldn't get up into his bedroom and slit his throat while he's sleeping. So it just seems weird to me, the way that it just wasn't mentioned at all that like maybe this guy shouldn't be trusted.
I think we're trying to hurry past the back to tank, because in episode 4, the back to tank, he gets out and one of the bots is like, "You're done, congratulations." So
Fennec says it.
No, one of the robots.
Says, like,
one of the robots when he gets out says, "You're completely healed, master." I think Robert Rodriguez is a fun director, but sometimes this happens in his films where we're just going to keep going. Like, we're not going to talk about it. Just keep going, because the plot and the action is what I'm here to do well. And what has happened and occurred makes sense. It's just that, like you and me, I mean, we get the idea that this is prestige TV, and much like The Sopranos or all these other things, crime related, like Boardwalk Empire or whatever, things are happening in the background. And I'm not sure that is entirely the case here with Star Wars. I think what is happening is right in front of you, more so in this show. But I could be wrong about that. It's only at 4 episodes into 8. 7. Sorry.
No, it's okay. But,
episode...
but that's just that speaks to the like, hey, our ending is coming up. It's on the horizon. Like we're at the halfway point. Like they need to like
episode 4, I think for me is the turning point on this show of like, oh, okay, cool, I'm into this. Where the show finally starts to connect back to Mando.
Are you referencing the musical cue at the end when he's like, we're gonna need more men, and then they go into...
It happens twice in the show.
Yeah, when they do the flare.
When they do the flare, and then at the end there's
what
2
flare? Sorry, I didn't catch the musical note I guess the first time, or I'm unfamiliar with the flare that you're referencing.
So during the flashback, Boba's like, he's like, oh, he's in the desert alone, and he's feeding the. Bantha. That's when he feeds the who we all thought was like an herbivore of the bantha.
Herbivore teeth like, all the way back. And he throws
and he's like,
chicken.
There's a piece of chicken in there, chicken / sand thingy. He throws that thing in there, and he's like, oh yeah, eats it. But then there's that flare that goes off, and you're like, what the heck is that?
Okay. Fennec Shand.
Yeah, that makes sense because that's from. You're seeing it from across the desert of that. That's the scene.
And so they put the Mando sting on top of that scene too, and immediately your brain goes to, oh, that's Fennec Shand, and then he shows up and saves Fennec Shand, and we go through that whole thing, and so it's a callback to that moment, and also a callback to, hey, we're gonna need some muscle. I don't know why Fennec would trust Din Djarin. So at the end of this episode, we can go back and talk about it, but the end of this episode, they say they're gonna fight the Pikes. And Fennec says, well, we're going to need more muscle. Or somebody says, we're going to, and then Boba says, I got plenty of credits. And then she says, I know some guys or something like that. And then they play the Mando sting, right?
Yeah.
Why would Fennec, who was blasted in the gut by Din Djarin?
No, she was blasted in the gut by the other bounty hunter.
Oh, okay. Well, he left her in the desert to die, so.
The other guy left her in the desert to die. I think when he comes back with like he's like, oh, I'm gonna go get this stuff. He blasts her, and he's like, oh, you're worth this much, and he goes off to go capture the kid. The crooked bounty hunter does. Like he abandons her in the desert and goes off mission and goes to go get the kid, and that's where his. And then Boba's like, shit, okay. Or not Boba, Din follows him back to town, if I remember correctly. But they actually didn't. The crux of it is that they didn't have a negative interaction aside from him.
He was literally hunting her. I don't understand how that's not a negative reaction.
Negative interaction, but he was trying to capture her, but he didn't shoot her. He didn't say like, oh, you're a piece of. He's like, you're a bounty, and I'm here to catch you to help him so I can get paid. And also just like with Boba and Black Chrysanthemum. It's like, this is a professional thing. Like, I understand, like, you don't hate me. You're here to collect a bounty. So that's what's going on right here. There's a certain amount of professional courtesy there. Also, the same thing happens with when Boba picks up, finds her and saves her, and she's like, oh, I'm worth more alive. And it's like, yes, but I don't want to collect the bounty. And they go into that discussion. It's like, I'm not here to hurt you, or like there was not she didn't go like, oh, you're that double dealing Boba Fett. I know about you. It was very much clearly like there's a professional, like we're both bounty hunters. We both played this role. We understand that there's a certain amount of not anonymity. There's not an animosity. I'm trying to think of the right word, but there's a certain amount of just, I keep coming back to professional courtesy, just like understanding like it's the job. And so, but like he wasn't the one who shot her. He wasn't the one who necessarily left her in the desert, because I think that's when like I think Din goes off to get their mount. Or get the bike or whatever, and that's when he comes back and it's already been done. She doesn't know that he left her for dead if he was there. So, and then later on, their other interactions are they show up on Typhon. I think it's Typhon. I'm gonna forget.
Tython?
I'm gonna miss Tython. Yeah, Tython. That sounds right. And they're like, hey, we want the armor.
Yeah,
they want the armor, and they face off a bit, and they're kind of like stuff happens, and they all act professionally with each other. They agree to work together to save Grogu, and so all the interactions.
I don't think that the Grogu and the armor and all that I would call it a positive interaction. I guess she was willing to die on the bridge of that ship, though. It's weird though that she would say, "Oh, I know somebody," and it's like Fett knows Din. Like, why you gotta be?
Yeah, I think it's other people.
They play the musical cue.
Yeah.
For Mando, so I'm like 99% sure we're gonna get at least a short bit with Din and possibly some other people from the show. But she could be talking about any number of other bounty hunters. We could get
Dengar.
Yeah, I mean, like we could. She could be talking, or
Ask
Embo, or Cad Bane. We could be talking about any number of other people besides.
It won't be Cad Bane.
Yeah, not after what he did to Boba's helmet. Hypothetically, outside of canon. So in the episodes that we didn't get out of Clone Wars, the dent in Boba Fett's helmet is from Cad Bane. They essentially do like an old style gunfight, and Cad pulls first, and he hits him in the head and essentially knocks him out, and that's how that fight is supposed to end. And that's where that big dent in the Beskar comes from, is from Cad Bane's shot.
Okay. But that doesn't mean that Cad Bane.
It's not canon either.
Did he kill?
Yeah, it's not canon either.
After that,
it's not.
No. He's not. It's not canon. So, but that's one of the things where it's like they'd be at more at odds than anything. But I mean,
I would take it though.
Again. Trust me. There's how many people would be loving if they brought in Cad Bane. Speaking of which, everyone from the trailers and stuff saw the main character, and I can't remember her name, the leader of the mods. They saw, the dark-haired girl which, by the way, you can check your messenger. I sent some images. If you guys remember the game Master of Terrascasi,
yeah,
the fighting game from like the 90s on PlayStation, there was a character in there called Arden Lynn, and Arden has black hair. She has a robotic arm, and so lots of people were like, "Is that Arden Lynn? Are we gonna get Arden Lynn in here?" And it's because even in Solo they mentioned that I forgot her name now. Emilia Clarke's character.
Oh, okay.
Emilia Clarke had mastered Terrascasi, and I thought that was a great little moment in Solo. And it's like they could also canonize this and make it like if a lot of people were thinking it's going to be Arden Lynn, which is, I mean, it's not, but it's still kind of fun.
These things are lighter weight than people want to put on them, I think.
Oh yeah, absolutely. But just people always want to bring back. They always want to bring back things that they love from Legends, and so it's like when we talk about like, oh, they're going to bring in some other bounty hunters.
I would think we would see probably not Grief Karga, but maybe what's his name, Bill Burr. We could see him. We could see Bill Burr's character. Although just thinking like the greatest hits of who would be available from the Mandalorian series.
I think you're right. Those are the only two.
Migs, Din.
That's about it. Because I don't see the
Luke Skywalker.
Well, they could bring in Bo-Katan. They won't bring in Luke. I would be very surprised if they brought in Luke. But like,
Luke
they could
would have no interest in helping Boba Fett. I don't understand why.
I could see lots of Mandalorians, the ones that are left, like Bo-Katan and Casca Reeves. They might have some.
Maybe
probably less likely, but I wouldn't be surprised if they brought him in.
It could be interesting to do that and then be like, season 3 of The Mandalorian is Boba is required to help them take back Mandalore.
Yeah, which I think that's where that's going to go, because I feel the Ahsoka Tano show is going to go a different way, more towards Rebels storylines, whereas Din going to Mandalore could definitely be a good step forward for him to be learned. Like, if you're Mandalorian and you believe you're of this sect, what does that mean? What does that mean for you, who's adopted into the world? And that's because I mean it's very much from that moment where he's like, "Where'd you get that armor?" She's like, "I've had this armor passed down to me for generations." Yeah, and like there's the whole talk of like, "Oh, he's one of those like they that don't remove the helmet." That's a interesting story.
He's also got brand new armor, right?
Yeah,
it would be interesting to see Mandalore and fight for it again, but I don't think that show ends up staying on Mandalore and becomes that kind of thing.
It could definitely be an episode, a better part of a season, I think. especially because he has the Darksaber.
I think a lot of people would get turned off by that watch The Mandalorian for the Western episodes, the Western style episodes. This is turning into what we thought, which is Boba builds a crew, and now we have a crime family show for the PG-13 audience. One of the meme reactions I saw to this was somebody re-editing episode 1. Every time, what's Anakin's mom's name? Shmi says slave. They dub it with a really bad dub that says unpaid worker. That's the type of crew we're dealing with. I think maybe these shows will end up being lighter. You know what I mean? Oh well.
I mean, lighter than like we just don't. You mean you just don't see them being like super dark and?
I think he's building a crime family show with very slow speed, multicolored speeder bikes. You know what I mean? It's not.
That's part of it, but he's also got Santo. I think Santo's gonna join up.
Santo seems like more of show than.
Well, it comes down to how you shoot the show, because it's like, yeah, he ripped off that dude's arm, but they don't show you any blood. Like,
nope.
Okay, I do want to talk about that for just a second.
Yeah, I have a big note in my thing. I said, Kit, they destroyed the Trandoshans for you.
So I watched this show with no prep. I did not look at who directed this show. I didn't know who directed this show until we got to the end. When he picked up the Trandoshan, which, by the way, is yet another example of them tapping into my brain and being like, what does Kit want? Because we have talked on this show
to rip somebody's arms off.
Right, how angry I am at the Trandoshans about how they have treated the Wookiees. So this is yet another instance where Jon Favreau's like, what does Kit want? We need to write that. But when he picked that guy up by his arms, I immediately said out loud, this is like in Mortal Kombat. Is he going to rip his arms off like Goro rips Jax's arms off in Mortal Kombat? And then he did it. And then we get to the end, and it says, directed by Kevin Tancharoen, who did the Mortal Kombat Legacy web series 10 years ago. Okay. And I'm like, this all makes sense now. Like, that makes perfect sense. And I was like, and I literally laughed out loud, because I was like, man, this is like some stuff inside other stuff. Because like when he picked him up by the arms, I'm like, he's holding him just like Goro held Jax. Other than the fact that Goro has 4 arms instead of 2, but like the way that he was holding him with his arms kind of out to the sides, like he was gonna rip him off. I was like, man, is he gonna? And
it's happening.
I'm like, that's exactly how Goro held Jax when he was gonna rip his arms off in Mortal Kombat. We've heard about Wookiees ripping people's arms off. We know Wookiees hate Trandoshans and Trandoshans hate them. Is he gonna do it? And like, then he did it. And I was like, I kind of thought he wasn't gonna do it when she talked to him, because I was like, they're gonna set me up and they're gonna make me think that it's gonna happen, but then because this is on Disney, they're gonna not do it, and I was like, oh man, but then he did it anyway, and I was like, yes. It's like
Boba Fett is like a Matryoshka doll made just for Kit.
It is. Every show they open up a doll and there's another doll with another thing that I want nested inside, or 5 things that I want nested inside, and I'm like, yes, even more things.
It's like a loot crate. Yeah,
it is.
It's a Kit loot crate.
I understand that there are lots of people who maybe not lots. There are some people who are not digging this show as much as I am, but man, I am really digging this show.
I really think that it's kind of that people were left. Its show is finding the story in front of people by saying, I think a little bit, we don't want to go too far in one direction with Boba Fett right away. We have to say he's a blank slate again and build this character very slowly in front of people so they don't get angry. And that kind of is panning out to mean the show in general is methodical, a little bit slow, doesn't have a clear, even stylistic thesis.
It especially with Robert Rodriguez doing episodes 1 and 3, and then I forget the person's name.
1 and 4, I think.
No, 1 and 3.
Okay.
I can't pronounce his name, but Taron Chowan, I think is how you say it. but he did 4. But Robert Rodriguez did 1 and 3. And 3 was very Robert Rodriguez. Even if I had been in a coma the last 10 years and didn't know anything, and I just woke up and somebody showed me episode 3 when Danny Trejo shows up with a Rancor, I would have been like, oh, yeah, I'm like, Robert Rodriguez is doing Star Wars now? Like, I would have been able to pick that episode out as a Robert Rodriguez thing with no backstory whatsoever. But it does feel really kind of not as, it doesn't feel as unified. I'm struggling with the right cohesive adjectives, but yeah, as the Mandalorian felt like that they had different directors doing the Mandalorian, and the episodes within themselves were different stylistically, but they felt more uniform as opposed to this one where it's like a Robert Rodriguez episode and then an episode that feels very differently with the tribes of Tatooine.
There are
then another Robert Rodriguez episode, and then an episode that feels not as different, but somewhat still quite a bit different with episode 4. And so it is sort of more jarring in this series.
Sure. Yeah. I think what I meant by the word thesis. My brain is tired. Dave Filoni and Jon Favreau came up with an idea, and it was very clear. And they sat down every director that came in there and said, "This is what we are making." And in some episodes, it's more that than other times. Like I can think of standouts where they were on the prison ship, where it's like, okay, well, that's not as much of a Western, and it definitely
that was very much a horror.
That was episode. Like a horror film, yeah. And
when as soon as they get on the ship, they switched that so where they would shoot it. They shot it basically with like the over the shoulder of him with the strobe lighting, where like every time he'd get a little bit closer and stuff. That was shot very much like a horror movie, and it was just emphasized by the fact that the music sounded like a John Carpenter Halloween. Like John Carpenter on the synthesizer, you know, dee 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 dee. That's the Halloween song, but like the music sounded like John Carpenter synthesizer 80s horror music, and so that episode is a perfect example.
I think it's a perfect example of a show having more of an identity than this one has developed yet, and that's all I meant by it.
Yeah.
Speaking of music, I'm liking it so far. The music in this show is pretty dang good. It doesn't have for me, it doesn't have memorable scenes as much in terms of the music, but as an overall quality thing, it's high end. I like it.
And we should probably mention that Ludwig Göransson. Sorry if I'm positive that I'm mispronouncing your name.
Both shows, right?
Well, he did. As far as I know, he did the majority, if not all, of the music for both seasons of The Mandalorian. He did the theme, the Boba Fett theme song, but the rest of the scoring is done by Joseph Shirley.
Oh, who's that?
I don't know, but
it's Maria's boy.
I have read that people are saying that it's probably because Ludwig is working on something else, and so
Joseph Shirley has also worked on The Mandalorian, so
okay,
that's okay.
Well, and I mean that's kind of the point that like multiple different conversations. Like one friend was talking to me. He's like, "Oh, hey, is it true that Jon Favreau is doing all the future Star Wars movies?" Because he just heard through word of mouth through friends, and I'm like, I don't think that's true because like I don't think there's any movies aside from maybe I think there's Rogue One or Rogue Two. Like thing that's been like mentioned.
Well,
but the majority
there's also Taika has been given a movie.
Taika's got a movie somewhere.
I don't think that we know anything about what it's supposed to be about, but he's been officially said that they've given him a movie because they liked his episode of The Mandalorian.
No, it was so good.
Much, so. Yeah.
And they're good. But then like to my point with the word of mouth that he had heard, I'm like, I think the majority of what he's doing is he's working on all of the TV stuff, which is, you've got Mandalorian, you've got Boba, you've got Kenobi, you've got Ahsoka. And that's just those like the ones we know, but there's still also the Acolyte TV show I think that we're supposed to have. There's the Cassian Andor TV show. And it's like the idea that like you can only spread someone so thin, like, and with the speaking of Ludwig, like he's working on Mando, but it's like I'm sure he's probably has been in meetings for Kenobi and all these other shows and Ahsoka, and I'm sure that hopefully they'll find a head sound designer who's going to be in charge of all that for each show, so they each have their own flavor and feel. And that's why I think that's kind of a good thing for Boba to have. Maybe you have that main theme done by Ludwig, but then you have another composer who's doing the bulk of the score, so that it feels more cohesive, and you have that tone across all the episodes.
I'm surprised.
It's just a matter of,
I'm surprised they didn't go with Michael Giacchino, who did Rogue One and The Force Awakens.
I mean, he's been doing all kinds of other stuff too. So
he's basically like under Disney contract now. I mean, he does most. Right, he does most of the not most. I guess he does a lot of
Spider-Man No Way Home.
Spider-Man.
He's doing the Batman. Yeah.
That was what I was going to say, is that they might go. It might be a very similar system to the Marvel movies, where there's no one composer who does all of the Marvel movies, but they all each movie has its own musical feel, but there's still kind of that sort of like
house
theme.
Style.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that was what that.
Well, a house style is a good idea. Yeah,
yeah.
I mean, it's a very good idea to have that. That's why John Williams, music sounds like John Williams music, which sounds like Star Wars to people. I don't know. Taika works with Giacchino a lot, so I would imagine Taika's movie will have Giacchino in it. That guy can make some music. I'm just saying that.
For sure. But
the Batman theme has me wanting to see the Batman, and that's just from a piece of music with nothing on it. Anyway, Taika's still working on Love and Thunder, so.
Yeah. And I just meant down the road they had said that they're giving him. I mean, I think technically, Rian Johnson's trilogy is still not canceled yet. I don't think it's actually going to happen at this point, just because of the scheduling, the way that they have already said that Rogue One's coming out in like 2 years, and then 2 years after that, another movie. I think we have Taika. Have they announced a third? I know that they said that there were going to be 3. I can't remember if they've said who the third yet.
I would prefer Rian Johnson work on more Knives Out movies and less Star Wars movies. How about that?
Oh yeah, me too. Absolutely. By the way, I guess they did some reshuffling of, I can't remember what the details are now, but whatever was causing the scheduling conflict for Patty Jenkins. Now she's back on where she's working on. She's just working on Wonder Woman 3 and Rogue Squadron and whatever. I can't remember what the third project was that she was working on.
I don't care. I'm dancing.
She gave up on that because they gave her enough money, or
Cleopatra.
Yeah, buddy.
Yeah, that's what it was. Yeah.
What was she working on?
There's something else. Who?
Cleopatra. There's 2 other projects that she's working on.
Yeah, it was Cleopatra. Did they give a trilogy to
Josh?
Who's the Marvel guy? The head Marvel Feige. Did they give a Star Wars trilogy to Feige?
No,
because
what I'm thinking of.
It's not the worst thing in the world to pull back, I think, a little bit from the movie stuff, especially with how much I think Obi-Wan Kenobi is still coming. Another season of Bad Batch, at least.
Yeah, which is good. I'm happy for that. It's
Mando.
Mando. Cassian Andor.
Andor is still in work. Ahsoka is still in the works. I think they've got enough on their plate. Let's take a break from making new.
Feige has been. They did announce. There's no details, but they did announce that Kevin Feige is working on an untitled Star Wars film. Like at some point.
I mean, if he's producing it, that's fine. He does. Yeah. Like I trust his working order and the way he develops things. He showed that's clearly his strength.
Cool.
Yeah, I guess he's a producer, not he's not like directing or anything, but yeah. But that was I think that those are the 3, and I guess he could be producing like Rogue Squadron or the Taika movie. But I think that I think that we have 3 movies, because they.
I wouldn't be sad.
I think one of the Disney Plus days or whatever, I think that they announced that there was going to be like Avatar, Star Wars, like Christmas. I think it's Christmas was going to be an Avatar movie, and then a Star Wars movie, and then an Avatar movie, and then a Star Wars movie, and then an Avatar movie, and then a Star Wars movie.
Episode 5 predictions. 5 minutes of predictions for episode 5, and then we're wrapping it up.
I don't think that it would be impossible for Dengar to show up.
I don't think so.
He might not, but
he's too slobby to show up in this show. It's too pretty.
I don't know. Other classic bounty hunters? Do you think that there would be a IG-88 or Forlom or Zuckuss? I don't think that we will see Bosk unless it's immediately. I wouldn't mind seeing Santo fight Bosk because
it would be interesting for Bosk to show up because of Santo, and so that was my thought when we were going through them all earlier. Forlom and Zuckuss is cool for me personally because I liked those characters from books, but whatever. No one's gonna care. I think Bosk is interesting because we've already seen on the screen for people that don't know who Santo and all these other people are that he hates Trandoshans, and then you're gonna bring in a Trandoshan bounty hunter that everybody knows. That would be pretty cool. Of a thing.
And we could get a little bit better of a fight because I feel like those Trandoshans were
they were little accountants and
not
card counters.
They were not. I mean, it was good to show that how the last 2 episodes we've gotten an awful lot of building up how great Santo is because he's able. Granted, Boba Fett's all slimy and he catches him off guard and whatnot, but he fights and we don't really know how good of fighters the mod kids are, but he does fight all 4 of them and Boba Fett and 2 Gamorreans all at the same time and pretty much wipes the floor with all 7 of them.
Yeah.
And then he goes in and takes out a bunch of Trandoshans. But I would say that the Trandoshans I felt didn't really seem all that.
Kit, how much more Trandoshan blood do you really need spilled? Come on, man.
I would love to see him fight Bosk and have it actually be a decent 2-minute fight as opposed to him just throwing a bunch of Trandoshan accountants around a casino.
Throwing Boba Fett around a room?
Yeah.
What's your one prediction there, Ken, for episode 5?
I really like Kit's. I had all the different stuff as far as I want Boss. I want Dengar to show up. Kind of. I don't. I say kind of because I'm I do and I don't. You're right. I don't think he is too kind of just I don't know. Not sleazy, but he's not.
Well, they took apart his part of the story where he helped Boba get out of the pit. So what's interesting about Dengar? Nothing.
Yeah, there's not that betrayal and then the earning of respect again.
Right.
So that's fair. I mean, I don't know. I'm trying to think because we're gonna see. I mean, I guess hope to see Mando.
I think
maybe
that's
see
possible
another.
For sure.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know why you put the musical stings in if you weren't gonna bring someone from Mandalorian over.
For sure.
I think we'll at least see Din. It wouldn't surprise me if we saw Bo-Katan and some other Mandalorians, but it also wouldn't surprise me if we just saw Din.
Yeah.
It would be pretty strange to not see others with Din, because we're going to see them in the middle of something happening between now and his next season. So if he shows up, he's got to show up with everybody following him around because they want to steal the Darksaber from him.
I guess if anything, maybe a holovid from essentially from Crimson Dawn saying speaking to Boba, the Pikes have a claim to this, and he's like, I don't recognize that claim, and he's they're like, well, I guess a similar thing to kind of set up that there is that larger world of criminal syndicates where it's the Pikes are saying this, they have a role in our organization. We don't recognize you as a daimyo. We don't recognize you as a crime lord. And then someone gets on the phone and suddenly it's Emilia Clarke, and I can't remember her name from Solo.
Kira.
Yeah, Kira. Because I mean, if you're reading the comics, there are moments where the crime syndicate, Crimson Dawn, does come into the play, and Kira's still playing a role within the world. So I'm like, cool, have her there, and that's what I say via holovid, because I'm not sure how you age her up or what do you do with that, but that's just because it is now at this point 10 years since we saw her last. So I don't know. That's that way you can do a bit of if it's on holovid, you don't have to worry about the de-aging technology or aging, however you want to do it. So I know I guess they've seen that because Kit went with the bounty hunters we know idea.
I think Kira has a very real possibility of showing up.
Do you think so? I think episode 2. In one of the episodes,
no.
when he's
No, Lando.
Lando.
Aged up, but Donald Glover's too big to do an episode. I feel.
I don't think anyone's too big to do a Disney episode of anything. If they have a character in that universe at this point, it just seems like they do it.
I guess it depends on how he felt after Solo came out and how he felt the characters were, because it's like
Fennec could know a Lando.
Yeah.
Well, Lando's they've started writing him a series. Yeah, they started writing him a series.
I think he's already signed on to do his, like, that doesn't mean that he wants to do a cameo on this show, but I mean, I'm pretty sure that aren't they doing a Lando streaming show?
Yes.
Calrissian? Maybe.
Yes, they are.
At this point,
yes.
probably.
Okay. They are. Yes.
But okay, so in Boba, he says something about killing the Hutts, and Fennec says you're going to need permission.
He would have to get permission from Kira.
Is Crimson Dawn right? Is Crimson Dawn who he needs to get permission from? Yes. Who does he get permission from?
Well, the Pikes and the Hutts both report to Crimson Dawn, so he would have to get permission from Kira, or Darth Maul.
Maul's dead.
Maul's gone.
Oh, that's right. That's right.
Probably. Maybe.
Unless
Filoni changes his mind again.
Yeah, exactly. Although that was one of his productions, so he'd probably acknowledge it.
We literally know that someone could find his body, take him to a mod shop, and have him fixed on the planet that he got sliced up on.
Yeah.
So we can't rule it out. It's Star Wars. We can't rule it out.
If it's just his head now.
I still function.
It's just his head now. All right.
But probably not.
So next time we'll do another couple. Well, I think we'll just wait till the end at this point. That's only 3 more episodes. We'll see. We'll see how we're feeling. But then
or we could do 2 shows every week, and we could do a reaction show where we watch the show
2 shows now
live.
Okay,
and then we could think about it, we could spend the next, few days at work thinking about it, and then come back with more cohesive thoughts.
Kit, I'll mail you an iPod Touch, and you can film all that and then just send it to me, and then
okay. I do, before we go, I would like to end the episode with a moment of silence for the Sarlacc. So if we could.
Well,
but
you can't believe he seismic bombed the Sarlacc in the face
and had almost like no effect on the ship. Like Ebony and I were like watching it, and I'm like, okay, maybe there's some science to that being used, how it appeared to be used in space versus how it appeared to be used on, in an atmosphere under sand. But like that looks like a massive charge in episode 2.
I don't think it had any explosive capability. It was just concussive.
Right. And so that's where it's like, so it has a bigger footprint, so to speak, in space, since it is there's less restriction on it.
Maybe.
Is that why it looks so big in space versus inside the Sarlacc? But also you have all the sand that would impact it. Also, yeah, that was just like, and the fact that it's like just that button, I was just like, I don't know. Why
did the button start flashing? That's what I want to know.
Yeah, because it wanted time for the seismic charge. Yeah. Seismic charge time.
Don't push my buttons.
Don't push my buttons next time. Like, really, man?
Man, that was a good line.
I think I just saved us. Yeah.
But anyway, before we get too far, I do want to mention the kitchen droids, because I really love the kitchen droids.
Well, one of them was not a kitchen droid. One of them was the restraining bolt droid. Right?
Oh,
right.
yes.
EV-99. Yeah. That we got him, and then we got that like 6-armed Grievous chopping droid. Man, that thing was awesome. I loved that. The one that was sitting there chopping the cabbage, and then when they came in, it was like twirling its arms like Grievous. Yeah, that was fantastic. I love that.
I didn't need the rat catcher. It was nice to see him again. I think the best part of that scene was EV-99.
I think it's worth noting that some people have said that that's not EV-99 from Boba's Palace, because that one ended up in the cantina. This is just another EV droid.
Was this also voiced by Mark Hamill?
That right. The other one was voiced by Mark Hamill. So
the one in the bar was voiced by Mark Hamill.
Yeah. So maybe not, I don't know. Someone said that
the EV-99 from Jabba's Palace is in Mos Eisley, so they went and got another one and put it back in Jabba's palace? That doesn't make any sense.
Maybe they had multiples. Maybe they had multiple EVs.
This
maybe
is
after Mando. Maybe
look,
after
Max
Mando
Rebo is
quit.
back alive, so
Yeah.
Which
I'm happy
Oh
about.
man, I loved Hit It Max, or whatever she says. Is it Hit It Max?
I think that's what she said.
I can't remember what she says.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love that, man. That was such a good scene.
I would like to know. You know what? I want a Back to Tank Max Rebo episode and figure out how he survived. It's literally just a very condensed. So like the end of episode 7 is 10 minutes after the credits, 10 minutes, and it's Max Rebo's Boba Fett. He just literally everything that happens to Boba happens to Max. He gets found by the Tuskens. He gets into a back to tank. He has flashback memories. He steals back his instruments instead of his ship. He's like, it's go through exactly everything that Boba did. He builds up a new band. They all drive around multicolored Vespas like that. Just redo all of it for Max and explain how.
I think he's probably smart enough that when the lightsaber came out, he's like, you know what?
I'm out of here.
I'm a musician. Right. I'm not a hired gun. I'm a musician. Yeah. Droopy, Sai, are you coming with me? Because I am literally jumping off the ship.
We're out of here. We're going to grab Figure and Dan and the Bulldodes. I got a plan. Let's get out of here.
Yeah. Wow. All right. Until apparently next week when we're back with 2 episodes for the Book of Boba Fett. Thank you, Kit. Thank you, Ken, for joining me. Podcast wewergamers.com if you want to send us your thoughts on who's showing up in episode 5. Hopefully this is out around that time. I'm really trying. And we'll talk to everybody then.